What is up, gamers? Staxwell's back at it again today with another video. We did a market watch yesterday, but it felt like it was a little short. It felt like you guys got robbed out of your market watch. So we're going to do another one today, and since last one was too short, we're going to make this one way entirely too long, which is probably preferable to people who actually care. And I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go TCG player, sort, flesh and blood, all, filter, legendary, and we're just going to go over every legendary in the game. I'll probably revisit this and do this again in like 6 months, or maybe I'll make a reaction video to this in like 2 years or something and see how accurate my predictions were and things like that. So a lot of what I'm talking about here is whether or not you should pick up cards if you are a newer player or if you have a smaller collection. This isn't what cards I think you should be buying out or whaling or speccing into. This is more for a player, a new player, right? So let's just jump straight into it. I'm going to try and keep it somewhat short and sweet on every card, and we're going to balance cost to utility, and I will give it a tier list rating, 1 to 10, S through F or something like that. Who knows? I'll probably just give up on that at some point. All right, let's go. Top to bottom. Spirit of Irina. This is the Bolton Legendary. It is currently at $22. I still think it's a good pickup. I think Bolton could be a very good hero at some point in the near future. And $22 is very cheap for a legendary. I would give this like a B+, A-, or like a 6.3, like a 6.8 rating out of 10. Decent pickup. I think everyone should have a Spirit of Arena if you have a decent sized collection. Emperor the Drakai of the Asir is $18 as well. I'm just doing the rainbow foils, by the way. We could, if you guys really want me to do all the cold foils, let me know, comment down below, and I will run through all the cold foils. But this video is just for the rainbows. Emperor Drakai of the Asir is currently $18.50 for the rainbow. I think it's a really good pickup. If you don't have one of these cards, you absolutely should. Not only is it super iconic, it's like, very lore driven, so it's got a lot of collectability on the back of that. But it's going to be good one day. I promise you it's going to be good one day. It might take 2 years, but it's going to be a good card one day. Brave Forge Bracers is another good card. This one's from Welcome to Wraith. It's currently at $89. It was recently bought out as well. And I think if you're a warrior player, like if you have any interest in the class, you should have one. You should pick it up. Me personally, I don't have one, so I can't recommend everyone go out and buy one. But that's not my playstyle. That's not my thing. But I totally get where this card could be good. I totally get where it fits. Maybe a warrior will come out down the line, something similar to an emperor. It'll be like a dual class hero that really resonates with me, and I'll regret not picking this up. This one's probably like a C tier pickup. It's it's not good, it's not bad. At this price point, it is a little bit expensive, but yeah, it's definitely a good card, no doubt about that. If you have any interest in the class, it's probably like an A tier pickup. Everyone should have one. Black Tech Whisperers is at 105 right now. I'm not in love with this card. I honestly just prefer Snapdragon Scalers most of the time, particularly in like Uzi, where you're not getting all the silver and anything like that. That's not to say it won't be good down the line. I'm sure they're not done with the contract mechanic and the silver mechanic. I think this is more of a long-term spec. With that being said, I would wait for the hype on this to die down a little bit. People probably just still assume that Assassin will play this no matter what, and I don't entirely think that's the case. Once people stop playing this, the price will cool down. Once the price cools down, I recommend picking it up. As it stands right now, I would say it's like a C-. It's not the best pickup. Invoke Soraya. I think everyone should have this card. I think it's powerful. You can imagine a deck being built around this kind of mechanic. And attacking for 4 and soaking up 4 damage is like just very above rate for the cost. Good stats for the cost. Beautiful card, flavorful card. It's only $40 for a legendary. That's always a good deal. So I'd say it's like a B tier card, especially if Illusionist is something that resonates with you. If not, honestly, I would still pick one up because it's just a beautiful collector's card. Vestige of Soul. It just recently got bought out to $70. I actually don't think this card is very good. Even in a lot of the Prism iterations where this card was made to be good, it was just worse than Tunic. So I'm not super in love with the competitive viability of this card moving forward. Of course, there could be more soul synergies and things like that that will push this over Tunic. I could totally see that coming. But just at this price point, I'm just not entirely sold on it. I would kind of pass on this one. I'd give it a C minus. And again, nothing in Flesh and Blood is a bad investment. Flesh and Blood is going to stand the test of time. It's going to be here in 20 years, and every card in the game is going to go up. Every single card. So this is just kind of, I'm just like in a ever living game. It's impossible for it not to go up. At some point in the 20-year future, they're going to print a card that's really good with Soul Synergy. And Vestige of Soul will at least see some niche play as like a tech, and it will go up off that. None of these cards are just going to tank, I don't think. That's where I stand on the game. I don't know how you guys feel about it. So just take everything I say with that grain of salt. If I say Vestige of Souls isn't the best pickup right now, that doesn't mean it's never going to be good or it's never going to go up. I just think with the current card pool and the current speculation that we have, I don't see it going higher than this price point or being usable in the near future anytime. Ghostly Touch. This goes for all the Uprising cards. I think that at some point... Oh, my dog is like chewing on my chair. Stop. Nugget, stop it. He's going to eat my whole chair. Ghostly Touch is just too cheap right now. Oh, yeah, sorry. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so Uprising is just going to disappear one day, the same way Welcome to Wraith did, the same way Arcane Rising did. It's going to take a little while, but one day Uprising is going to be gone. And you can imagine a world where Uprising is out of print, and Dusk Till Dawn is out, and Ghostly Touch is a very needed card in the new Illusionist. So you could see a world in which Ghostly Touch is hitting like $80 to $100. This, I think, is like an A or an S tier pickup, a 9 out of 10. I really like the idea of Ghostly Touch, especially at the super cheap price point. I think it's only a matter of time till this one gets bought out, to be honest with you. Scab Skin Leathers is $58. I think it's probably a little bit too cheap. Obviously, Brute hasn't been the most competitive decks ever. You know, all the Brute heroes aren't like super viable, but obviously one day they will be. Every class is going to have its day, of course, and when Brute has its day, Scabskin Leathers is going to go up. I still think it's too cheap, $58. This is even after a buyout. It's still only at $58. Blocking for 3 alone is good enough, and then the high roll mechanic of being able to save you in some situations, it's just a great card. Mask of Momentum, $150. I actually think that the game is like too evolved for this card to really be good. I don't love Mask of Momentum by any stretch. Especially at this price point, it was recently subject to buyout. If you just think about it, like Katsu wasn't good before. He had Mask of Momentum before. Fi was never good with Mask of Momentum. Lynx was just always preferable. Mask of Momentum was good in like certain niche scenarios against like dragons and things like that. In the last but since Uprising, we've had a tier 1 ninja hero, right? Since Uprising. And a tier 1 go wide ninja hero that just doesn't really play Mask of Momentum. Some lists just straight weren't playing it, and most of them were just playing it into things like Dromai or very matchup specifics. But yeah, Lynx is just totally outclasses this card in the current metagame, and I find it hard to imagine a metagame in which Mask of Momentum doesn't get outclassed by Lynx. But with all that being said, Lynx could get banned, like it has been in Blitz. And if Lynx got banned, then Momentum is the next best card. Momentum is also a super iconic legendary from the first set. It's got beautiful art, easily recognizable. With all of that put together, I think it's a very middle investment. But at this price point, I think it brings it down a tier. So it's maybe like a C minus, I guess, or like a 4.8 out of 10. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not in love with it. If I didn't have one, I wouldn't be buying one right now. Skullbone Cross Wrap. I think this is actually a decent deal, $100. It's not bad. You know, it's always going to be good in Azalea. It's a super iconic piece. It almost fills the same role as Mask of Momentum, except Skullbone Cross Wrap is actually played. And yeah, it's still got that. My dog just sneezed. God bless you, Nugget. All right. Are you good? All right. Yeah, except it's actually played. $100 isn't as ridiculous as 150, and I could see, it's not like there's an obvious better choice than Skullbone in heroes like Azalea, right? Grasp of the Arknight, 107. I still think this is a good pickup. I think every Runeblade printed forever will play Grasp. I can't imagine them power creeping Grasp, but of course they could. I just can't imagine it, and I can't imagine a build of Runeblade that doesn't want Grasp. If there is an aggressive Runeblade, it's gonna play Grasp. If there's a slow Runeblade, it's gonna play Grasp. I just can't imagine a world without a Runeblade without Grasp. Sorry, Nugget is just messing with me today. Coronet Peak, $23. That's too cheap for a legendary. You should buy it. Every legendary that's at that price point shouldn't be at that price point, and we should at least have one copy in our deck or in our collection somewhere. It's not a bad card by any stretch. Icelander plays it. Icelander is the best hero in the game. So I don't... He's like drying off his beard on my bed. What is he doing? Dude, he throws me off, dude. My whole schmood, my whole vibe, my flow is ruined. Coronet Peak's a good pickup. Let's just move on. Spellbound Creepers, I think, is one of those cards that its full potential hasn't been totally realized or totally actualized yet. The more and more cards that get printed that just like have cheeky, cute interactions with Spellbound, I think Spellbound just keeps getting better. It's only a matter of time until we get a new Runeblade. It's actually already been announced we're getting Chain 2, and I can't imagine the card would just be unplayable in Chain 2. So I think Spellbound could easily go up in the very near future. And $81 is like actually pretty cheap, pretty reasonable. I think the Cold Foil is not much more, so I'd rather have the Cold Foil. But Spellbound Creepers as a card as a whole is a very good pickup, I think. Tiger Stripe Shuko, $53.50. I still think this is probably like the best Ninja Arms, unless your deck just straight doesn't play cards with 2 or less. Like I guess the new Katsu might not, and they'd have to play Breaking Scales. But the art is obviously, I love it. $53 for a legendary that's this good, I think is pretty cheap. And if you're interested in Ninja, I would pick it up for sure. It's too cheap. And Uprising is totally going to disappear one day. So that's why I think all these Uprising legendaries are just too cheap. Like once Uprising is gone, we're going to look back at this video and be like, man, we should have got that stuff. Welcome to Wraith Tunic, the Rainbow Foil, $310. This is good for a multitude of reasons. I still think it's too cheap. It's going to hit $1,000 one day, I'm pretty sure. Super iconic, obviously like the most played legendary ever. And it is like it is Flesh and Blood, right? If someone played Flesh and Blood ever at any point, they will have known about Tunic, and they will have known Tunic to be one of the best cards in the game. All right. Alluvian Constellas is $21.50. Again, if something is this cheap, it's just too good not to pick up. It's also from Uprising. Once Uprising disappears, we're gonna wish we had bought all of this. It's a very niche card. Like it's only gonna be good obviously in Wizard in certain matchups. It's not gonna be something we're always playing. But I can't imagine a world in which we're not at least side decking Alluvian. Good pickup. Tectonic Plating is only $50 right now. I think that they're not quite done with the Seismic Surge mechanic. It might take them a year, it might take them 5 years, but they're going to print more Seismic Surge synergy at some point, and when they do, Tectonic Plating is going to go up. A legendary from the first set at only $50 is way too cheap in my opinion. Arcane Rising Skullcap. This is the foil one. It's at $78. I'm not super in love with it. It's just not that great of a card. But if you're a collector and you just want all of the legendaries, this isn't a bad price point to get into it. But if you're a newer player, there's just so many better things to pick up, so many better places to place your money, so many more playable cards for similar price points. I just don't think this is worth it to the average player, to a completionist. Nugget, stop. To the completionist with a ton of money that is just looking to fill gaps in their collection, it's not a terrible time to buy it. I think it's actually a good time to buy it. New Horizon, $255. I would only buy this if I was immediately wanting to play Ranger. Like if I wanted to play Riptide, or if I wanted to play the new Azalea with this card, or if I wanted to play Lexi with this card, that's the only circumstance in which I would buy it. If I didn't immediately want to use it, I would not buy it. Just because of the recent buyout and the hype and everything with this card. Once more of it hits the market, once History Pack 2 hits the market, once this price cools down, I think it is, objectively one of the best headpieces in the entire game across all classes, and I'm sure it's going to be the headpiece of choice for a lot of Rangers moving forward for the next 10, 20 years. So with all of that being said, it is probably going to be a good pickup, but just wait till it cools down a little bit. Unless you want to play Ranger, and I think if you want to play Ranger, don't hold back. Just buy the cards you want to buy. Stormstrider's 170. I still maintain my position. I think this is probably the best legendary in the game. It's either this or Tunic, but taking a whole extra turn to me is better than getting one extra mana every turn. The only downside to Stormstriders is it's locked behind the Wizard class, which is fine because Wizard is fun and people love Wizard. 170 is still quite cheap for the Arcane Rising Rainbow Foil version of Stormstriders. Yeah, if you didn't have one, you're interested in the Wizard class, don't think, oh, it got bought out, so I don't want to buy it. I still think it's a good investment. And again, on a lot of these cards, we talked about this in a couple videos ago, there is white border versions of them available. So, if you just want to play the card, like if you just want to play Icelander right now, you don't have to pay 170. You could pay the white border version. If you have, Fat Wallet and you want to buy the ones that have the longest term value, then of course you're going to want to buy the original print, right? That's the way I do it, because I want, whenever I'm done with a game or whenever I'm done with a card, I want to get something back for it. I don't want it to be worthless, so I tend to buy the foils. That's just me personally. Teklo Foundry Heart, they haven't printed another Mechanologist yet. They've only printed one, so we're a bit overdue for an adult CC Mechanologist. And I'm sure whatever it is going to play Teklo Foundry Heart, even if it doesn't boost. Even if it's a boostless Mechanologist, the fact that this blocks for 3, I'm sure it's at least going to sideboard it. 125 for a foil out of Arcane Rising, that's this good. Dash is still a super powerful hero. This is obviously staple in Dash. I think it's, all around a good pickup. If that class interests you, it's definitely worth a pickup. Silver Palm's only $30, and this only comes cold foil right now. I think $30 for this cold foil is very good, especially if you have any interest in PvE or anything like that. Once all of that kind of stuff gets rolling, I think Silver Palms immediately goes up. Crown of Dominion is $45. I don't think they're done with the royal mechanic. I think, when you equip Crown, your hero becomes royal. That's definitely not a mechanic that's done yet. They're going to print more synergies and things like that for it. And when they do, Crown of Dominion is going to skyrocket. When Dynasty goes out of print, Crown of Dominion is definitely going to go up. And as more gold and silver synergies start coming out, Crown of Dominion is going to go up. I could also see a world in which merchants probably make gold, silver, copper very easily. And maybe starting with a gold would be very beneficial to them. So I could see merchants also pushing the price of Crown of Dominion up. Just a lot of reasons that this card could be good. So yeah, I like it. I think it's a good pickup. Flamescale of Furnace, $95. Man, this card is so good. The only issue is it's logged behind the Draconic tag. I don't think they're done with that Draconic tag yet, but I think it's going to be quite some time before we fully cycle back to, Volcor, and, we get more Draconic heroes. But once we do, I'm sure Flamescale will be good. Anything that blocks 2 and then blocks 1 is just good. Every time, it's always good. And then, this is also really good in Phi, which isn't rotated yet. It's also really good in Dromai, which isn't rotated yet. They're not going to be done printing support for either of those heroes. Obviously, they're just going to keep printing support for every hero in the game until they LL. So, at some point, this card's going to go up for a multitude of reasons. I think it's a very good pickup. Man, I didn't know what I was in for. Okay, Valiant Dynamos. This card's actually pretty good. For those of you who don't know, it's like a Kasai card or like a two-handed warrior card. Like when you hit, you take a counter off it. It's pretty good. You get a lot of value of it throughout the game. It's $86 right now, but it's from Monarch, so that explains that price. I don't think it's bad, especially if you're interested in the warrior class. I think it's in the very exact same lane as Brave Forge Bracers. If you like the warrior class, then I think it's a good long-term investment for sure. Not a whole lot to say about it. I don't have one, and I won't pick one up just because I don't like the warrior class. It's just not my thing. But I know it is a lot of other people's things. That's not me hating warrior players. I have nothing but respect for you, but it's just not my thing, so that's why I don't have one. Shock Charmers is our next card. This card was never particularly good, and its effect just isn't that hot. The Spell Void is better than the other effect. I don't think this card's a particularly good investment, or for this price you could just pick up so much better stuff. I don't think Shock Charmer is exactly worth it at this time. Yeah, they'll print more Lightning Heroes in the future, but I don't think that pushes Shock Charmers. I don't think that's gonna make the price of Shock Charmers go crazy or anything like that. Stalagmite, $42, very good pickup, very very good for a cold foil, very good. I think that's like actually insane, especially when Everfest is finally gone. I can imagine this card being $100 easily. It's just so good. It's like just objectively pound for pound the best shield in the game. Like you could argue Rampart, but then you have to pay every turn, and then Rampart needs cards like Crown to be good, but like Stalagmite's just always good. Like no matter what situation, like if you have a Stalagmite on your arm, it's just good. Blocks for 3, gives 2 Frostbites, like just so much value from that. And for that price point, you really can't go wrong. Like, would you rather have a Stalagmite and a half or a Shock Charmers? Like the answer is so obvious, right? Carrion Husk is 125 right now. It's calmed down a lot since we last talked about it. I think it is a good pickup, though. I think that that price is still not ridiculous or anything like that. It's a shadow card, so Levia plays it and wants it and still plays it. Chain could play it in Blitz. Then there's going to be new shadow heroes that come out. And a card that blocks for 6 is quite broken, and I can't imagine a shadow hero not playing that card. 125 for a card as old as Monarch Legendary is pretty good value. I don't think this price point is completely unfair. Crown of Providence, I think this is the best generic headpiece in the game, pretty undebatably. 180 is quite steep, quite expensive. I don't hate this, but I'm also not super in love with it. It's a generic, we know that they'll print other generic headpieces, like everyone thought Skullcap was good forever, and now look at Skullcap, it's just kind of been outclassed by Crown of Providence. I think I could imagine the same thing happening to Crown of Providence one day. Or not only that, like maybe we won't get a better generic one, but like every class will have a really good class-specific headpiece at some point, right? Whether it be like Lynx, New Horizon, Crown of Seeds, something like that. Like every class is going to have some broken in-class legendary that like with a big enough card pool, Crown of Providence does get outclassed. So if you don't immediately need it, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. There's just better cards for the price. Eclipse, $25. We've talked about this. Especially from a set like Monarch. Monarch is so old, and Eclipse is only $25. I highly recommend picking it up. It's a chain specialization. But guess what? They're printing another chain. So I'm sure this card will be good again. Even if it's not, it's super cool. Super art. Like the art is super cool. Super collectible. I just think it's going to go up, me personally. Then we have a lot of white border cards on this list. I'll just go ahead and skip over those because you could see the original one. Let's go Mask of Momentum here for 100. Just go back to what I said about the old Mask of Momentum, and just kind of go off that. I don't want to talk about every white border card. I'll be repeating myself. Heart of Ice, $60. I actually think this is a good pickup. There's obviously going to be some kind of Return to Aria set or something like that, where Ice Heroes will get more support. And I think Heart of Ice will always be at least a side deck card. And as Tails is gone, like imagine a world in which Tails is gone for like 2 or 3 years. And then we get a return to Tails. And then Ice is at least going to side deck Heart of Ice. And then imagine what that foil Heart of Ice is going to go for. It's going to be a couple $100, I imagine. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I actually like it. I think it's a good pickup. I think it's a good card. Doomsday, I'll say the exact same thing about Doomsday as I'll say about Eclipse. I could totally see it being good one day. This price point's too cheap. I imagine they'll reprint a new Levia if the one we currently have is just bad forever. I think they'll just be like, give up on trying to buffer and just give us a new one entirely. And then we'll be able to use Doomsday in that deck. And the art is sick. I love everything about Doomsday. I love the whole, like, This class normally doesn't summon things, but there's one super legendary card in their deck that summons a demon. It's just like awesome flavor. I love it. So yeah, Doomsday and Eclipse, I recommend both of them. Everfest Skullcap, I wouldn't buy this under almost any circumstance. I would much rather have the foil. It's not that much more expensive, and the long-term value of it's going to be like way more. I imagine it being like maybe more, probably like 5 times the price of the non-foil at some point. Soraya, $90. I think this card's going to be broken one day. It did just get subject to a bit of a buyout, but I still think it's kind of cheap. I still think it's worth picking up. One day this card, with enough specializations being printed in the future, at some point this card is going to be broken. That's just like objectively true, unless they just print bad specializations forever. But like the whole point of specializations is like they're supposed to be above rate, So yeah, she'll totally be broken one day, and I'm sure they'll have to like ban or nerf her or something like that. But yeah, $90 for one of those old set legendaries, I think is totally worth it. Footsteps, 170, Phantasmal Footsteps. I think it's still a good pickup. This like the Phantasm mechanic is just so punishing, and it's so like limiting to illusionists. But it's the illusionist mechanic, right? And it's something illusionists are gonna have to live with forever. And I think Footsteps is just a great way around that. Not only that, but the paying to block and all of that. I could see a world in which illusionists have some sort of Crown of Seeds or something, so you can like Crown Footsteps block every turn. Yeah, I see the long-term value in Footsteps. It's also a very iconic card. A lot of people know it and instantly recognize it. I think it has some of the best art of any card game ever in Phantasmal Footsteps. A lot of reasons that it's good. I would only pick it up if you were immediately interested in Illusionist, though. If not, then kind of wait for that Dusk Till Dawn hype to die down a little bit, because the new Illusionist is coming in there. And yeah, base your decision off that. Rampart of the Ram's Head being $60 is just a very good pickup. It has been the top of the meta for, Oldhim has always played this card, and Oldhim has been in the top of the meta nearly since his release, outside of like a Starvo or whatever. But yeah, pretty much since he came out, he's been a meta contender, and he's always played Rampart. I don't understand how this card is so cheap. I highly recommend it. Imagine if Oldhim got, you could see like 2 years down the line, they'll get a Crown of Seeds-esque card, like something that, or like their own Phantasmal Footsteps Guardian will, or Ice will, or Earth will, and you could pitch a blue and block 3 every turn. And if that ever becomes a thing, say that becomes a thing 2 years from now, just imagine what Rampart of the Ram's Head's price will do. It'll just be insane. It will be insane. Crown of Seeds, very much the same thing. For all the same reasons as Rampart, I put them all, same thing as Crown of Seeds. Crown of Seeds has been super broken for a long time. $57, way too cheap. Highly recommend it. Crucible Award Tunic. If you can't afford the rainbow foil, I would recommend this over the white border, but I would recommend the rainbow over this one. $216 is actually a very, very fair price point. I don't hate this. I don't hate it as a pickup. If you have the money, just please buy the rainbow foil one. You're not gonna regret it in 5 years. Then I think we just have a bunch of white borders and pre-sale. Yeah, that's it. That's all we got. We did them all. We got through it. We powered through it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, rate, subscribe, and help the algorithm help me out a little bit. If you guys like this kind of content, this longer form going over everything, let me know. Do you want me to do the cold foils? Do you want me to do foil majestics? Do you want me to do fables? Let me know in the comments down below. How do you guys like these longer form things? Should I keep it how I used to do it, or should I continue doing things like this? Let me know. I love all the feedback. And yeah, thanks for watching, gamers. Later.